Now, this video couldn't come at a more important time in our country, specifically with all the mass shootings that have been going on, Vegas and now this one in Parkland. But I wanted to put a little bit of a disclaimer to say that, of course, all this awful and horrendous acts of violence by these evil individuals is awful. But this shooting especially has spawned a lot of bad people, polarization, and emotional politics. So what we wanted to do is talk specifically about, I'm sure everyone has heard of him, David Hogg, and everything he's been doing, and I think he's ridiculous.
And even before we get into that, I just want to say that it has nothing to do with him being a survivor of something that is horrible and should never ever happen to anyone, and none of us can never know what it's like.
I couldn't fathom. I
what
don't
it's like
understand.
to have to go through something like that, and just to come out of that and be strong and be able to be a public figure is incredible. And
I give a lot of respect to that.
A lot of respect to him, and a lot of respect to all of them who are standing up for what they believe in, and they have an absolute right to speak up and express their beliefs. It is what this country is founded upon, what the First Amendment stands for. With that said, we don't think how he's gone about this and how he has carried himself is helpful at all to this country. I think it only divides us further, and I think that more importantly now, more than ever, we need to come together as a country and discuss this without emotion, rationally, based on facts and logic. And what we just want to get across, and what we stand for, is that we want people to come together and have discussions rationally about this. It is very important that we do that, and I think it illustrates our goal perfectly. With that said, let's go ahead and get into David Hogg.
They're pathetic fuckers that want to keep killing our children. They could have blood from children spattered all over their faces and they wouldn't take action because they'll still see those dollar signs.
Right off the bat, I don't think that's a good way to come across saying...
He started it very, very iffy, and not only that, very big accusations on his part. And he's kind of ruining his point by cussing to a certain extent, because I love to cuss, don't get me wrong. It's a part of how I talk with all my friends and everything, but when you're talking about a sensitive subject and throwing these accusations at politicians about the blood of the kids and they wouldn't even care, they're all in it for the dollar signs.
Yeah.
He throws so many F-bombs.
Yeah.
It's just
and
unnecessary.
To use that kind of language for emphasis can be a tool.
Yeah.
I would say. But to call people pathetic fuckers, I don't think is a way you want to come across in the way that you want to portray yourself. And I don't like that. No one in this world who's not an absolute piece of crap wants to see children killed. No. And to say that someone wants that demeans your own point and makes more people hate you and hate your point of view.
Are you exhausted?
I'm beyond exhausted.
Is it energizing, this exhaustion? Is it an energizing exhaustion?
Yeah, it's just as energizing as it is exhausting at this point. I get to a certain point where I get so tired that I just keep going. It creates a positive feedback loop in some ways, where the more stress and work that I put on me, the more work and stress that I can deal with. Well, at this point, it's like when your old ass parents like, I don't know how to send an iMessage, and you're just like, give me the fucking phone, and you take it and you're like, okay, let me handle it, and you get it done in 1 second. Sadly, that's what we have to do with our government, because our parents don't know how to use a fucking democracy, so we have to.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah.
That could be easily reversed onto us. Oh, these fucking kids don't know how to write a check?
Yeah.
Give me that check let me get that jotted down in under a second.
Don't know how to mail a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these kids are going to take over our country
Stupid
someday.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's just unnecessary for an argument.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Completely invalid point, and it makes absolutely no sense. And just to be that big of an asshole about it, it's not. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help your point. And coming from millennials, he's what, 17, 18 in 6 months?
Yeah.
We're in the same generation, I think, technically.
Yeah. I'm only 2 years older than him.
Yeah. And coming from that same generation, that puts a stigma on the rest of us.
Yeah.
And all of millennials, which is its own separate problem that kids like him just give the rest of us who are level-headed, just gives us a bad name, and it makes us look bad. It reflects poorly upon our generation to talk like that, and it demeans his own point.
I think what sick fuckers are out there that want to continue to sell more guns, murder more children, and honestly just get reelected. What type of person are you when you want to see more fucking money than children's lives? What type of shitty person does that?
So pro-gun advocates and congressmen, congresswomen, what's the PC term for that? I don't know. But elected officials who are pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment, want to have the blood of kids on their hands just for money, and their whole beef is with the NRA. And the NRA hasn't done jack. And that makes no sense too. That just bothers me so much that you would just stigmatize the other side of the aisle like that.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed in every interview I've seen him in is he's not a very emotional guy. He seems to have the same frown and monotone. That's nitpicking at this point, but he is in the process of just completely shitting on not only everything he said, but then he's accusing all of the people who believe in the Second Amendment and believe in the right to bear arms, and saying that they basically want kids to die because they're fine with the sale of guns to people
and want money.
He could have clarified that so much better. I don't want guns to be sold to people with mental health issues. I don't want guns to be sold to ex-cons. I don't want guns to be sold to these people that have the capacity to do something stupid. I understand that point. If he had said that, that's fine, but he's lumping everyone in, even the innocent ones. And I know as a nation we have to go as slow as our slowest person, but at the same time, why should my political views and rational political views be shit on because of some other people and what other people have done?
It's blaming the 99% for the 1% of lunatics, and just lumping the rest of us in who are pro-gun in with the mass murderers, with the lunatics, with the complete garbage people in this world. And it just demeans his own point and divides us further, which is not what we need right now.
And like there's this whole, I mean, the way that they're talking about it now, the way Rick Scott has been talking about it is like, when the shooter arrives, we need a metal detector and a guard.
Point, with Rick Scott, it's like, when I get elected to Senate, we're not going to let that fucking happen, and you guys better not. He's like, oh, I'm going to implement all of these amazing things. Let me make sure I do it right before my election for Senate when I try calling out Bill Nelson. He's turning this political.
Aren't you turning it political?
And not only that, of course he's going to talk about it to get reelected. I don't see an issue with that at all. Isn't that the same stuff that the left does when something tragic like this happens? Of course he's going to turn his ideas on what he needs to do to keep shootings from happening in order to get reelected. He has to get reelected.
Yeah. He's looking out for his own job, and that's what everybody else does in the government. They just run on the platform to get reelected and quote-unquote turning it political when your whole movement is political.
So do you see that as opportunistic? I mean, he's
it's absolutely opportunistic. He does not give a fuck about these kids' lives at all. He only cares about his reelection. That's why this stuff is being implemented in a year, not today.
He can't. It's
Again.
just he can't. He throws all these false accusations out at people.
He doesn't give a fuck about kids being murdered.
He's just.
Are you kidding me?
He's so. And once again, I have to reiterate, just so I'm not put on blast for not caring. I understand he went through something traumatic. Friends of his could have possibly been killed.
Or did get killed.
And I understand that he's out here trying to make a difference, and I respect the fuck out of that. But with that same token, you can't be whipping all of this shit into other people's faces just for talking about it and saying that they don't care about kids. That's, if any other person who did not go through that, imagine any news anchor saying something like that, that they just want to bathe in the blood of the kids and shit like that.
Yeah.
If any news anchor said that, they'd be fired immediately.
Yeah, well, and then the media props these kids up and uses them as a shield for their agenda, for their biased agenda,
Mm-hmm.
and then at the same token, him and them say that you can't criticize him either because he's a kid or because he went through this. And I think that's bullshit. If you're going to come into this sphere and be this leader for your own agenda, your policy suggestions are open to be criticized.
What is striking to me about this is that you guys seem to have such mastery of the internet in a way that I feel like, I mean, literally any politician pretty much can't even approach it.
And that's the great thing about it, because those fuckers aren't going to get reelected.
But on the internet, they're on your turf essentially. Like, this is the way I think about it. But like, you actually have to take that turf and take it to theirs, which is like making laws happen and getting people elected, or making sure people don't get elected.
I mean,
When you start hearing from your political aides that there's a shitload of angry future voters, you start to worry a little bit.
It's not so much the language as the way he uses it.
Exactly.
That just pisses me off.
You can cuss all you want. I don't care. It's the fact that he's using it in ways to where he's calling people out and attacking people. And these, once again, huge accusations, and he seems very hateful. And one thing I want to bring up is, why isn't I apologize if I'm butchering the last name, but Kyle Kashuv, why isn't he getting brought up enough in mainstream media? He's a kid who survived the Parkland shooting, and he's a kid who's pro Second Amendment still after that.
Yeah.
I don't know why all of these guys are getting media attention by CNN, MSNBC, all those guys, and then we're not hearing anything about this Kyle kid who went through the same experience and has a different political view about it, but they're like, no, that's not with our agenda. That's ridiculous.
Cover it evenly.
And I understand. I will throw shade at Fox too, because Fox is just absolutely whipping shit on this kid right now, and is whipping shit at all the people that are the poster childs for Second Amendment reform and all that stuff. Yeah. But it's just, I don't understand why there's no fair
distribute the conversation evenly. If there's one thing to gather out of this, is that we need to start conversating evenly. Sitting in your little echo chambers is only going to get worse. Sitting in your own echo chambers is only going to make things worse. Mm-hmm. It's only going to further divide us. People need to hear dissenting, opposing viewpoints. And that is what he won't do. He won't go on any show. He hung up on the president. He won't go on any show that might debate what he thinks he knows. Mm-hmm. And that's just unhealthy for this country. If you're going to be this type of person with this loud megaphone of a voice and that and the influence that he has, you have to be able to back up your own views with facts, and be able to debate and hear the other side rather than calling them fuckers or whatever the hell else he said in this, saying that they don't mind the blooded children on their hands as long as they're getting paid. It's just horrible. It's just a horrible point of view, a horrible way to look at the world. I feel bad for this kid. That's a horrible way to look at the world.
Very easy to talk your talking points with people who agree rather than people who disagree, because I think he's afraid of getting caught and getting messed up in a debate or in conversation or having his points taken away from him because they're illogical, and I think he's afraid of that. And that couldn't make your statements any more, more like any less just powerful. Because they're not powerful if you're talking to all these people that agree with you. Talk constructively with a person of an opposing viewpoint, and maybe you'll get your mind changed. Who knows? That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Is to help resituate your way of thinking into a more logical sense, and you can't do that when you're always around people who agree with you.
And we can make this country so much better if people had a place to come together to debate facts and ideas in a constructive way rather than just sitting in your own little bubble.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to offer here, and that's why we chose David Hogg today as who is the top story and one of the top stories in the country right now.